All right, what's up? We're covering the IEM Atlanta preview. This is the same day as I did the PGL Astana and the PGL Astana preview and the recap. However, I have just shaved. That is shaved, and I took a shower. That was it. All right. But other than that, let's get into it. Atlanta is kind of an interesting tournament for a few reasons, mostly because a lot of the top teams aren't really here. The only top teams are Vitality and Navi. Foot, obviously, if you consider them a top team. I don't know if I consider. I wouldn't put them in the same realm as Navi and Vitality. I do think they are good, but they're not there. Strawless, obviously, disappointing result at the most recent Blast preview that I covered. And then you have a few other interesting teams that are in that tier 1.5, tier 2 range, which we're going to see how interesting these teams are. So we're just going to run through them. So the teams are Vitality, Navi, Foot, Astralis, Legacy, Bait, FaZe, Betboom, M80, Liquid, Pain, Energy, Gamer Legion, Sinners, Passion UA, and PC Game, 16 team tournament. Obviously, with ESL's typical double group stage elimination bracket. So that means, yeah, 16 playoffs. Oh my god, I hate 16 playoffs. It's fine. It is what it is. Apparently, they're getting rid of it next year, and they're doing 8-team playoffs. Thank God. But um, until now, we have 16 playoffs. So this is going on at the same time as Astana. I will be watching both, not covering both. I'm not a live streamer or a broadcast talent, but I probably will talk about them afterwards and like recap the entire event just to like say some of the noticeable results, how teams were performing, stuff like that. But I won't be really. I will probably just be watching the matches I want to watch and the teams I want to watch, like Magic at Astana, because I love Magic, but mo- I love their players, I should say. Pause. But you know what I mean. So we'll just cover the how the teams are. We'll just talk about the teams very quickly. Vitality, I mean, obviously they're expected to win this tournament, especially since Navi haven't really shown that they could take any fight to them yet, and we don't know. We have to see how Falcons will do at Astana, right? So they're obviously not at this tournament. So we have no real contender to Vitality. They should just easily take this tournament, I imagine. They're number one, and unless Navi get them in quarters and they manage to beat them on two maps, which even when they had a giant lead they couldn't do, I don't think it's happening. So Vitality should just win this tournament, which some people are gonna be like, that's boring. But I think it's more interesting than just that. You're gonna see some interesting matchups. Navi, in my opinion, the definitive second best team. They don't lose to bad teams almost ever. They're super solid and consistent. Individuals perform against weaker opposition. Even Emma performs against weaker opposition for the most part, besides Vitality, which, yes, he struggles against Vitality, but he performs against every other team, which is fine. I think. Why am I blanking? I think that Wonderful and Mikaze have been by far their two best players. Well, not entirely true. Mikaze and Bit have been their two best players, but I imagine Wonderful will actually surpass Bit at some point this year. I really rate Wonderful. I think Wonderful was completely overhated on Navi in the past, but I think especially at the end of throughout 2025 he was their most consistent piece, and then 2026 started a little slow, but then he had the grand finals at EPL that won them that tournament. And then he's been showing good performances throughout, but last tournament he was really good actually. He dropped like 1.23 I think across the entire event, or 1.27. He was really solid, won a bunch of impactful clutches, great on the rifle. So I imagine Wonderful is going to continue to show good performance here. Same thing with Mikaze. Same thing with Bit. Bit's been pretty consistent this year. It's just Emma. It's a big question mark. I don't think they'll win, but I imagine they're either going finals or um, they're going far, right? I imagine like if they don't make finals, it would be disappointing in my eyes. Foot are another team. Last tournament they didn't have lonks, so I didn't really talk about it too much. I kind of touched on them very briefly for like I don't know 2 minutes in my recap. But essentially, this is the tournament where we get to see how well Foot are going to do. I like Foot. They're a super fun team. I think a lot of people have been falling in love with this team and how they play CS because it's very fast paced, up tempo, kind of loose, but like kind of individuals popping off is like how they win their games. So I think Foot should realistically do pretty well. I imagine they'll make a semis, um, bare minimum. Like semis is my bare minimum like expectation for this team because I think they're better than the rest of the field. But we'll have to see. Do I think they're going to win? No. Could they make finals? Yes, but I don't think it's likely against Navi if they face Navi. But they might be facing Vitality, and if they're facing Vitality on that side of the bracket, I don't rate their chances. Astralis, again, disappointing. Same thing with Foot, but more so because Foot had a stand-in, so they had an excuse. Astralis have been a bit disappointing since Blast. Uh, Blast Rivals was a really disappointing tournament for them because arguably I think they should have been semis bare minimum. And then I wanted to see how they would perform against better opposition. However, they just didn't play up to their level at all. Ryu played a really bad tournament. He had like 0.83. Yabi had a quiet tournament. Hooksy was fine individually, actually. And Stare and Fuzi were okay, but they weren't great. Um, so I'm expecting this is either a bounce back tournament, or if it's not, they're probably going to do bad at the major. That's where I would expect them because I actually think Astralis right now, like today, could make the major top 8. But if they do bad at this tournament as well, that's when I think that dream is over. So yeah, there's a comeback tournament for them. If they don't do well, that's when I think their chances are dead. For top 8 at the major. Legacy, weird team. They're going through a lot of changes. They changed coach again to ADRR. I don't know how to pronounce it. Adur. That's probably French, but whatever. They changed to him. Art has been doing pretty good with this team. The one problem I've been having with Legacy is Lotto. Lotto was a player I rated pretty highly, um, and he was really good for a period of time. He was their best player, where Dumao took a bit of a slump last year. But Watto was their best player in 2025. He was really solid. I think even against top 20, still really good. Like he was the Swiss Army knife for this team. He was playing a lot of late rounds and clutches. Kind of did like whatever the team really needed, and he was really solid. Where Dumao took a bit of a step back in the second half of 2025. But this year he's been a little disappointing. He hasn't really delivered in the same ways, and it could just be because he was more comfortable with Lux's style of calling, where Art is more comfortable with Dumao's, where Dumao is more comfortable with Art's style of calling. Because if you look at Dumao's stats this year, I think Dumao has been um, rather rather good. Like in 2025, he fell off towards the tailor end, even if you put top 20. So he fell off towards the tailor end, but in 2026, I think he's been much better, right? 1.10. So they're kind of the story of this event, and they are going to determine a lot of things. Of if Lotto can get back to his 2025, like second half of 2025 form, this team becomes really scary, and I imagine could make playoffs. But until I see Lotto get back to that form, um, I'm kind of out on this team. I don't think they're bad. I think they can mix some things up. They can occasionally get upset victories, but I think right now they're a bit in a weird spot until Lotto gets his form back. Nissim is still good. Sazin is whatever, but yeah. Bait, I think, have actually somehow improved. Sizzy is getting better and better and better. He started really slow, and I wasn't really sold on him at first, Sizzy. But nowadays I'm actually like I was okay. I was sold on the eye test. My eyes told me he was a good player, but the stats told me he made a lot of mistakes, and he did make a lot of mistakes. When you watched his game, he did make a lot of mistakes, over peaking, sometimes just not connecting the op shots he needs to hit, or closing out the rounds he needs to, sometimes missing the shots when he's going for aggressive picks. But I think he's actually not a bad player. If I check the stats, I'm pretty sure he's been getting better and better and better. From tournament to tournament to tournament, right? So PGL Cluj was his first tournament where he started a bit rough. ESL Pro League Stage 2 was not very good. Open Rotterdam, not good. But then Parkin, with the Tier 2 tournament, he did well. No, yes, Parkin is lower tier opposition. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. But at PGL Bucharest, he was solid. He actually had some very good clutches and very good moments. And then at Rio, I actually thought he was. I think it was him and Essential who were their two best players at that tournament. Essential is also another player I want to talk about because Essential, I think, is a bit interesting in terms of how he's done. I actually, when I first watched Essential, I was not sold on him at all. I thought Essential was actually a bad player. He was getting set up a lot, and he was like under delivering compared to how much setup he got. But as I've continued to watch him, this guy has gotten better and better and better, similar to Sizzy, as an anchor lurker player. Like he actually has a lot of impact within the rounds now. And I'm even willing to say he's a good player now. Like before, where I thought he was a bad player who got kind of saved because he was in trade positions and lurk positions. I think nowadays he's actually one of their better players. Um, so I think these two are going to be really important for how they do at this tournament. It determines whether or not they come top six or not. If Essential and Sizzy both perform, I think they come top six. If they don't, I don't think they will. I think Kenzasor and MPL have been solid. MPL has gotten slightly worse since giving up IGLing. Alex's calling has been whatever. But Kenzasor is still really solid as a T-side opener entry. He does his job extremely well. Um, and he's becoming less frustrating. I think he's becoming more consistent, more reliable. So I've been super impressed with Kenzasor. FaZe, we just saw their blast result. And that apparently saved their VRS. I think their VRS, where was their VRS? So their VRS was in the toilet. Um, but I think they've mostly saved it. How do I don't know how to do this. But it looks like they've gone back up a bit, right? Because they were all the way down here, but now they're at 22. So they were at 40th, and now they're here. I don't know how to do the thing. Don't ask questions. I'm bad with computers. But this team has become interesting. I think Twist as a caller has improved since his time on Liquid quite a lot. In fact, I think he's using more of the strat book. He's taking less shortcuts. He's still consistently a good individual player, so he's not a liability, which is good while calling. And I think he reads the game much better. Um, I also have to give credit to NKJ. I think NKJ was an incredibly good pickup. I already thought it was a good pickup before the results. After the results, I think it's an even better pickup because he's more structured, he's more game plan. So I think the way Frozen even explained it in his post-game interview at Blast was NKJ kind of allows them to, he gives them the structure so then they can play more loose on the server. So they can do their phase bullshit. Um, to be able to play the game, you know? And I think that's a good thing. I think NKJ provides structure to the team that was much needed for players like Jacob, Netsu, maybe Brokey to some extent. Um, so I think that's good. And I imagine this team could make a top six. I would actually say of the teams here, the there's like 8 to 9 teams I think could make top six. And I think FaZe is one of them. And the others are I have already talked about Bait, Legacy, Astralis Foot, Navi, Vitality, and then we're gonna cover the other two. But I imagine FaZe could make top six, and even if they don't, if they even make it close to top six, like they go into the lower finals, right, the lower bracket finals, and they don't make it out, to me that's good enough, right? I just need to see them consistently deliver performances and not fluke shit. I don't want to see any fluke stuff. I want to see consistency from this team. Um, Bet Boom, weird spot with the roster. Uh, they have brought back Zorte to the team, benching Art Frost, and they now have Flamis because Diladez, their actual starter, can't play because of visa issues. So this team is a little weird right now. I don't know how to really rate them. They've been doing good in tier two. They've been performing. I think at stake rank they made top four, top five. Which is not too bad for that team considering they had stand-ins. They've made the major as well. Magnojez has been delivering quite well in tier two. Magnojez, I think, is the one player I think will be very good at like the stats check out, right? He's opening a lot, like a lot, and he's very successful. So Magnojez is, I think, a player to watch out for and keep your eye on at this tournament because I think he's going to determine a lot. If Magnojez can continue to deliver as he has, Zorte is consistent, and Flamis can be like a bit of the X factor, the secondary star. I think this team can make also top six. Uh, there's a potential chance they make top six. I think they're pretty fucking solid. Um, Boomich is a caller I've rated for a bit. I don't think he's an insane caller, but I don't think he's a bad caller. Magnojez continues to improve. Siren is just a solid anchor. Sorte consistent. And Flamis, it's a bit of a weird state Flamis and Sorte are in right now, but Flamis has been fairly solid when they had him in the roster as a stand-in, so I'm fine with it. M80, they just won the Thunderpick NA Cup, I think. I don't know if that's online or LAN. I don't even know. But they won it against Wildcard, which, yeah, not really great opponents. I don't think Wildcard are bad, though. But this team is a bit weird, bit more inconsistent than they were when they had Hexed. I think the JBA for Hexed move wasn't really that good because I think you sacrificed current for potential, even though Hexed was getting better. That's the one thing I actually have a problem with is Hexed was getting better. Tournament on tournament on tournament, he developed more X Factor. He became more of a star, like the T side star that like lurks and finds these gaps. On CT side, he plays aggressive. He goes for plays. Like even on B, he's like a B apps anchor, but he goes for plays, and it's really awesome to watch. So I think this move for JBA for Hexed has kind of bit M80 in the ass a bit, and they don't really realize that. I don't think JBA is bad. I like JBA. I think he's incredibly solid. He's got the mechanics, decent read of the game. The problem I have with JBA is that it doesn't seem like it's really transferred to the highest level, where I think Hext has. I think Hext, even against better opposition, performs better than JBA does. I think JBA performs worse than what he does against weaker opposition, but I think Hext performs better against better opposition. And it could just be experience or nerves or maybe their mentality, right? So M80, they're decent. I don't think they'll make top at 6, but they're a decent team. Liquid, I still want to believe this roster can do something, but I have no idea how to rate it after Rio. Because at first, when I saw the Mulbs for Nerd Swap for G2, I think it's an upgrade. Not, it's kind of an upgrade because Mulbs is a worse player than Nerds, but Mulbs fits the role that Nerds needed to do better, right? So you allow a Liege to be the secondary voice and the playmaker, and you put Mulbs as a hard entry and anchor. So then a lot of more people, I think, win on this team in terms of roles and um, the way they want to play than before. Because I think before they were too split. It was too divided. I think the ways he wanted to play the game were different. I think the roles just didn't work. I think Nertz was too baity and too selfish, where Mulbs is way less baity and way less selfish, um, because he's a hard entry, and like anchor. And I think that works out because you get a lead who's um, extremely vocal player, a player who's similar to Nico, to where he has a big secondary voice. He wants to be a playmaker, to where he's pretty cerebral about the game. And you're able to build that was the theory, right? But it hasn't lived up to that. In Rio, they failed horribly. It was a terrible fucking performance for them. They lost a 3D max when they had a giant lead on Nuke. They had like an insane lead on Nuke, like almost Navi to Vitality level, and they choked that series and then immediately lost the second map. So this team is really weird. I'm starting to doubt Shui as an IGL. Maybe Flashy is not for this team, and you need to get Ash or something. I think Ash would be a great pickup. See if he can revive Shui to what he was. If not, you gotta cut Shui. Get kicks in. This is a team where I'm like, you can get kicks in, and it's pretty good. Pain, full Brazilian, and all I will say is kick snow, kick snow, kick snow, kick snow, kick snow. This guy is not good. This guy should never get. This guy, I'm sorry, I'm being rude to this guy, and listen, I don't even hate Snow, but even when they had the South American project where they had DGT and Davadeus, this guy got star roles over Davadeus, and I cannot fathom for the life of me why you would ever give this guy star rules over Davideus. Davideus, by the way, who is now on Red Canids, is farming, where Snow is not. This guy is not. He's not bad, but he's not good. Like, he's not good enough for this team. He's not good enough for Big Uzera. NQZ has benched himself because I think it's so fucking bad. So, on top of that, I think that VSM and Period Jr. are actually solid. Hold on. We're going to also pull up Big Uzera. I think Period Jr. and VSM are not bad players. I think they're actually good players. I pulled them up. Big Uzera has kind of fallen off in terms of fragging. This guy used to frag a lot harder. If you go back to 2024, he's actually a really good fragging IGL, right? Even against top opposition, he was good against fragging IGL. 2025, still fragged okay, but it was worse. 2026, he has fallen off quite a bit. Like, a lot he's fallen off, right? And I think it could be because he's getting older. He's 29 now. But at the same time, I don't think, like, I'm starting to be like, why is Snow still on this team? Who is giving him this job, right? Like, because at first, I'm pretty sure they tried moving Big Rosera to B apps for Mirage. I'm just getting into random shit now, like, based off rules. But they tried moving him to B apps to take less space so VSM and Period Jr. could play it. And then Big Rosera just started fragging so awfully and had no read of the game that they were like, okay, we can't do this. So they had to move him back to Connector. I don't know. It's a weird team. I don't know how to rate this, especially after NQZ benched himself, who in my opinion was their best player. So I'm out on this team. I don't rate them. I don't think they're going to do anything interesting. They might get one win, but I don't think they'll do anything interesting. NRG, I'm hopeful for this team. I still think this team can do something. I still like Grim. I still like Nitro. I think OC has been getting better. I think Bro and Sonic have been fine. They're not a really interesting team to talk about because I don't think they do a lot, and sometimes they get some interesting results, but I need to see more before I'm sold on this. I still think Grim is a good player, and I think him going back to NRG is good for both NRG and himself because he wants to live in America, right? And NRG lets him stay closer to home because I'm pretty sure he has family there, but I don't know. I need to see some things. If they make it like to a lower finals or like a lower semifinals, and they give some of these teams that I think will make top six a hard time, maybe that convinces me more on how they'll do at the major and their chances. But so far right now, I'm like a bit whatever on the team. It's similar to M80. I'm a bit whatever on the team. I don't think it's bad. It's just not interesting to talk about right now. Gamer Legion are one of the other teams that I rate to make top 8. I think this team will probably make top 8, or sorry, not top 8, top 6. They're one of the last teams I think will make top 6. It's Vitality, Navi, Foot, Astralis, Legacy, Bait, FaZe, Bet Boom, and Gamer Legion. Not in that particular order, but just in general. I think Gamer Legion has been incredibly interesting. Rez and PR, I think, have both been the stars of this team. And Touchdown and Hypex have been fairly solid. And then Snacks as a caller has actually impressed me quite a bit in terms of his not only his individual level, but his calling level, his understanding of how to play the maps and um, how to like play against these better teams, these tier 1 teams. And I think the thing is PR, this was something I mentioned, but PR I think for a while didn't care to play against tier 2 opposition because I think to him, he believes he should be at the tier 1 level, especially when he was the idea that Mel's were considering that he should come back to the main roster, or not come back, but come to the main roster. When he heard that and then it didn't happen, I think that bummed him out and he lost a lot of motivation. So I think nowadays he is trying. I think when he gets these opportunities to play tier 1 lands, I think he's trying to show I still belong in tier 1, right? Or that you should have picked me up, right? Almost as a thing. Rez still fucks. The guy still so good. He's 28, but 28 years young, you know. Still my IEM Oakland MVP, you know. Like, he's frags really hard. He's been their best player statistically for quite a while. And even at this most recent tournament of Blast Rivals, he was their best player statistically. Hypex has been actually fairly solid. I think Hypex, when they were playing all those tier 2 tournaments, was delivering and actually putting up decent performances, and Towson has transitioned into a full support player, which sucks because I liked Towson when he got to play a bit more aggressive and he got to play um, some of those semi-star roles like Banana on Inferno, right? He got to play Banana on Inferno on both sides. Now he's more of the lurker. They put PR in that position, which good for PR, but I kind of feel bad for Towson. I really like Towson when he was playing like that and when he kind of got to play because I'm pretty sure like he's mentioned that one of his biggest influences was Nico, and I think he does see himself almost as a Nico-like figure, even if he plays some supportive elements or supportive positions, right? So that kind of sucks, but I think he's been pretty good. Sinners, I'm pretty sure this team has been doing worse and worse and worse and worse since they made their major run. I'm pretty sure they won Wargar, which good for them. But then at this Tipasport Conquest of Prague, they lost to Sashi, Young Ninjas, and Tricked. Now Sashi, I don't think are bad. They have Zyphon on the team, and I rate Zyphon quite a lot. Zyphon is actually a really good player. But Young Ninjas shouldn't be losing to the. I think this is Young Ninjas without their IGL, or was Mistum even in this squad? Here we can check. But I'm pretty sure Mistum wasn't even here. No, Mistum wasn't even here. They had Vester, which I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of him. He's on from Wopa, I guess, or Wapa. But they lost to him. You know, without Mistum, Mistum was their primary IGL. Yeah, they have some decent pieces like Note, and then they lost to Tricked, who Tricked are not good at all. Sorry, but they're not good. And you lost to those teams in BO3s. You only won BO1s, so this result was concerning, and then also this one. However, they made it to the major. They might do okay here. I think Kisarek is Beastic is actually a fairly young caller that I actually rate. Well, he's not young anymore. He's like 24, 28. Holy shit, he's older than I thought. What? I didn't think he was 28. I think Kisarek, who has been like kind of the star of the team, and he's fairly solid. Moto's been getting better than what I thought. When I watched Moto on 9 and OG, I thought he was really mid, like not good. Stresserin is still solid. He's like more their secondary star, and then Chalk is their supportive element, and he is fairly solid. This team is not bad, and they're a team that I like, but I don't rate them extremely highly, and I don't imagine they'll do much against this competition. Passion UA, a bit of an interesting roster change. So they lost Senzu. Senzu is going to the other team that they're going to verse at this tournament. And they picked up SDY as a temporary thing. Now, SDY pickup, I think, is actually good for them for two reasons. One, more Ukrainian representation on the Ukrainian team, you know, Ukrainian org. Second, he's more experienced than Senzu. Even with international rosters and just tier 1 play in general. Even though Senzu is experienced at this point, but he's not like Omega. He's not like a super seasoned veteran. And then on top of that, I think SDY, because he's going to be that flexible supportive piece that you can put anywhere, you get to free up space for people like JT, Kavem, Try, and even Nikex to some extent. It gets a bit more space, I think, to breathe. So then it's less of a problem, right? He's kind of like that glue guy. And I think in theory, the SDY pickup actually might fix some of the problems that the team had with Kavem and Senzu. Kind of like, I don't think there was enough space for both Kavem and Senzu on the same team with JT, because JT is like a bit of a fragging IGL. He's an IGL who wants to take duels and wants to be able to go for plays and wants some star spots. But I think that with this roster picking up SCY, I think is going to improve them. Especially because I think he's going to be more vocal and he's going to probably provide more ideals. And on top of that, he's played in international squads, right? He played in Ends Forever, secondary caller, right? So I think that is going to help JT out a bit because he has now like a secondary caller in STY. So I think they might do okay at this tournament. I don't know if they're going to make top 6. I'm a bit iffy on it, but I think it's a good move in theory. And then BC game. Kind of interesting what they did. They took Skrunk, who was their analyst, who was a former player for, I forget the team? I forget the team, but he was on a team We can just check. Hold on. What team was he on as a player? Fireflux. So he was on Fireflux. I was gonna say Fireflux, but I wasn't sure if I was right. So he was on Fireflux. He was the IGL. He wasn't good. He was individually quite poor. However, he's temp IGLing, and they picked up Senzu. Senzu is now going to BC Game. I don't think this is a bad roster, but it's a big question mark of how it's going to work. Simple and Electronic have been. Electronic has gotten better, and Simple is still baiting the fuck out of his teammates. However, Simple is very clearly still good. He's still a good player. Crazy is better than Aragorn and plays the bitch spots better. But the problem I have is like Senzu and Electronic. Where are you? How are you? Like either Skrunk is playing complete bitch spots, and Electronic is like basically doing the CT side calling, or Electronic is gonna have to take a step back so then Skrunk can get some of the spots. Because Skrunk can't read the game at all. But it's a bit of an if. I don't know how T sides are gonna look. Senzu will probably have a lot of impact, and they're probably gonna have to play a more loose style of CS. So we're gonna have to see how it works. One thing I am praying that needs to stop happening simply needs to stop baiting his teammates. You have Senzu, you have no reason to bait this guy. Like, I want Simple to play more aggressive with the op and stop baiting. I understand he didn't trust those Portuguese players, Muterus, Aragorn, Crazy. I understand that. But when you're playing with a player like Senzu, who has shown you that he can play at the tier 1 level, no more baiting. Like, you go for the plays and you're not gonna bait. Like, that's the one thing I want for Simple. And Electronic, if he can continue to develop or continue to perform as he's been doing and showing a decent revitalization of his career, I would say, or individual form, um, I'm willing to keep him on the roster. Still think Crazy needs to go for an actual anchor. Magisk, I don't know if you want to get him, but it's not a bad idea. Even though I know it didn't go well in Falcons with Simple and Magisk, I'd say try it. Just fuck it, try it. Um, like once the VRS core gets established, obviously. And then I think you should try and keep Senzu if you can and get a decent IGL. I don't know which IGL is going to join you. You could probably throw offers at Kixin, but I don't think Kixin should go here. But yeah. Anyway, this has been 32 minutes, this video, so it's been a very long video. But I'm going to just touch on my fantasy. I know people don't give a shit about fantasy, but some people do. This is my fantasy for PGL Astana. IEM Atlanta hasn't dropped yet. Tenzi will fry. That is my final answer. Uh, but yeah, that's it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you think are going to make top 6 or win the event. I imagine Vitality will still win, and then maybe Navi. I'm not going to say Navi should make the finals. Top 6 is really interesting past that. I think a lot of teams could make top 6. I'm really interested in seeing some of these teams perform similar to how I am in Astana. I'm more interested in the niche underdog teams that are making interesting roster moves and making some interesting decisions rather than the top dogs. I don't get like this is something that I think some people will understand, some people will not. I like tier 2, tier 1.5 teams because they're so much more interesting than tier 1 teams. So much more interesting. To watch how they progress, watching how the players progress, watching how they develop, right? Like these things are the storylines are more interesting to me. So I think these are some of the teams that I like watching, and teams like sorry, teams like Passion UA I'm going to be watching, Gamer Legion, FaZe, Bait, Legacy, right? Bet Boom, right? These teams I'm going to be watching closely because I'm very curious on how they're going to do and how they're going to perform. And I think it's going to be a very interesting tournament to watch and see like where the expectations for them at the major is. Obviously, BC Game isn't making the major or Passion UA or DC. I didn't mention BC Game, but I am interested in watching it just because I want to see how does Senzu do on this team. But I'm interested in these teams, so I'm gonna be watching these games closely. And let me know what you guys think. Which teams are you excited for? Who do you think is gonna win? It's probably gonna be Vitality. I think everybody knows that. But which teams are you excited for? Tell me.